Guests on Keel heard via the Jack Spring Electric Keel Newsmaker hotline. One of those is Mr. Ronnie Jones. He is the chairman of the Louisiana State Gaming Control Board. Hey, Mr. Ronnie, welcome back to Keel. Happy New Year. How you been?
I've been good. Happy New Year to you guys.
Let me start here with you. You're so lucky to be joining us this morning because Aaron has come up with a number of plans to solve whatever problems the gaming industry in Louisiana has.
I got this, yeah.
And so she's got a bunch of, she's chomping at the bit. She has a number of suggestions. How lucky can one guy be? I'm
all ears. I'm looking for any opportunity here. So I'm glad that Aaron took a field trip and came back with intelligence for us that we can use and pull the trigger on. Let's go.
I went to WinStar in Oklahoma, about an hour north of Dallas. Spent about 4 days up there.
Wow.
I want my money back, by the way. But Ronnie, I left there thinking, we can't compete with this.
No.
None of our boats can compete with this.
No.
And this is just growing. There are going to be more, I'm sure, that are going to get bigger and bigger in Oklahoma. What's the answer? Do we let ours die, or does somebody finally step in?
Well, I've sort of been the canary in the coal mine for the last 3 or 4 years, and my job is to pass the information along to the policymakers in the legislature, to let the governor's office and those people know that we're facing some real challenges, that revenue is flat with respect to riverboats, and my concern is this: people are going to end up losing jobs if the legislature doesn't authorize some changes. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Ronnie, let's go back a bunch of years. I had not moved back at that point. What was the reason originally that casinos in Louisiana were water rather than land-based?
That was the general national template at the time, and in Louisiana it provided an easier path for legislators who were, many of them, opposed to gambling to begin with, but they're like, this is going to be great for tourism, and this is a tie to the great old South in Louisiana. I mean, and I was at the legislature and state police at the time, and they painted this picture of moss-draped trees and women in hoop skirts, and it was a romanticized version to get gambling authorized and approved. And I don't see anything sinister there, but that's what most states were doing. Illinois, Indiana, many of the states were going with riverboats.
And
the problem is they've all changed.
Yeah.
But you and I have talked about this. You and I have talked about this dozens of times. And the way I've phrased it is, we in Louisiana have legislated in ourselves into such a corner, gaming wise, that we've painted ourselves into a corner, and it doesn't look like there's an escape. Well,
that's the reason I prompted Senator Ronnie Jones about 3 years ago to create the Riverboat Gaming Task Force. And I was chairman of that, and I don't do many things right, but I think we did that right. We held hearings for 18 months and came up with, a number of recommendations. The legislature saw fit to pass a couple of them, and the Isle of Capri became the first riverboat to get approval in our December board meeting to move on to land. Now, whether or not others do the same thing, I knew it wasn't going to be a short-term turnaround. We were planning for the long term, but riverboat gaming in Louisiana is going to run entirely aground, and people are going to start losing jobs because the business is falling. And Oklahoma is a huge part of that.
You told us previously that there were 3 riverboats in Louisiana that were looking at moving to land. You wouldn't name them. Do you still have 2 others that are on the drawing board, possibly one from our local market?
It's been reported in New Orleans, so I don't think it's a secret that Boyd Gaming is trying to figure out how to invest in a landside operation, and that's in Kenner. That's in suburban New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And before Tropicana was purchased by El Dorado, the head of Tropicana had indicated he wanted to bring the Belle of Baton Rouge onto land, but that is now complicated because El Dorado has purchased Tropicana, and they're in the process of trying to purchase Caesars, which will make them just about the world's largest gaming provider if that's finally approved. So, we've got one that's been approved to come onto land. I'm hopeful that if El Dorado doesn't move the Bell of Baton Rouge onto land, they will sell it to someone who will. And I'm hopeful that Boyd Gaming will bring their treasure chest in Kenner onto land. So at that, there's one certain, one maybe, and one kind of in the wings.
But nothing here in our market, though.
I'm not aware of anybody in a couple of properties have talked to me, kind of like what ifs, and I'm not really. I wouldn't want to talk about those business discussions because they're confidential. But I can tell you, nobody's got any plans. There aren't any drawings right now to move any property in the Shreveport-Bossier market onto land.
Let's talk the taxes a minute, because I was stunned by doing some of this research.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma casinos pay about 6%.
Yep.
In taxes. Mississippi casinos pay 8%. The Louisiana casinos pay 21.5% in taxes. Why would I even want to be in business in your state, Ronnie Jones?
When the tax rate was set, part of the debate was, okay, we're going to have a higher rate than Mississippi, but you're going to have exclusivity that Mississippi can't guarantee. They limited the licenses in Louisiana to 15. The theory being, if you limit the license, it's more valuable. In Mississippi, you take your chances. You could open up your casino and somebody could open up right next door to you. So that was the bait that was used by the legislature to convince the industry that 21.5% was actually fair compared to Mississippi.
Now, is it also in Oklahoma? I'm pretty sure that because they're in Oklahoma rather. Because they're tribal, they're not paying a federal income tax, but the boats here in Louisiana, they all do, correct?
Yeah. I mean, the whole tax issue in Louisiana makes the properties in Louisiana just less competitive. And I got to tell you, Oklahoma is only going to continue to drain off a lot of the potential revenue from Louisiana casinos unless some changes are made. And I'm hopeful that the legislature will understand that, and I'm hopeful that they will provide for some changes.
When do you anticipate starting to see some of these jobs go away, if they haven't already? And is our market going to be the first to get hit?
There are already nearly a half dozen properties that aren't meeting their employment goals. And
some of those here?
Yes. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yes, there are employment goals, and those are part of the licensing agreement that we give the properties. I can't fine them for not hiring enough people, but when I look at the numbers, those numbers are already falling off. They aren't laying people off, but ultimately it will be a business decision. If you're not making enough revenue, you can't maintain your current level of employment.
Crystal ball, at the end of 2020, are there still the same number of casinos in the Shreveport-Bossier area there are now?
I hope not. I'm not a betting man, but the Spectrum report that was filed last year at the beginning of the legislative session didn't get a lot of attention. But one of their strong recommendations was that one, if not two, licenses in Shreveport-Bossier needed to go somewhere else. We'll see. I'm not aware of any bill that's been filed to do that in the upcoming legislative spring session. It did not get a warm welcome the last time around, but I've got to be an optimist. That's the only way I can face this job is to try and believe that ultimately something good will happen to this industry. It's important. It's especially important to you guys in Northwest Louisiana. You need it desperately. And I'm hoping something good can happen in 2020.
But if the way to increase business in this part of the state, the way to increase gaming business in this part of the state is to take two away, aren't you kind of conceding that the pie is finite?
Oh, absolutely. And I've said from the very beginning, competition across the country, not just regionally and state to state, is going to get much worse. You can oversaturate an area with gaming properties. And I see that happening. Arkansas approved them last year. So we're getting it from many sides in Louisiana. But I believe that a healthier market in Shreveport and Bossier would be without one or two of the existing properties there.